We are live with another exciting episode of All Things 3D. Today's Friday edition, weekend review for November 7th, 2014. I'm your co-host, Chris. This is our co-host.
Hi,
Mike Balzer. And we have a special guest from Autodesk, Garin.
Say hi, Garin.
Hey, everybody.
And today we're going to talk about what happened this week in the world of 3D, not just 3D printing, but all things 3D, because that's what we are, that's what we talk about, and we want to bring you the latest, greatest news items. So let's get right into it. What did we find, Mike?
You're always first. LULZBOT.
All right. Well, my this week, a real something near and dear to my heart, because I got one on the way, is a LULZBOT company out of Aleph Objects out of Colorado announces officially their FlextDually Tool Head. So it's a dual. One of the things I really love about this company, LULZBOT, is they're a big supporter of the open source movement, Open Libre. So Libre 3D, just type in that. You can download all the source files for any of their things that they sell, but they officially announced their FlextDually Tool Head, which is a dual extruder for your 3D printer, even the TAZ 4 in particular, which is a 3D printer that they put out. And this is a $500 dual extruder, but it also, one of the extruders allows you to use flexible materials, or it's made specifically to work to be compatible with things like NinjaFlex. So you can not only print, a soluble support and or ABS or nylon or any of these others. It's got a standard E3D, it's not an E3D. It's a what is the style of extruder they have here? Trying to remember.
Direct drive?
Well, I'm trying to remember the name of the... here we go. So, either way, a Budish nozzle, there it is. So one of them is a standard Budish nozzle, and then the other one is actually made to print specifically with not any, or it'll print any other materials that are compatible with the rep wraps. But it's specifically designed to feed flexible material properly. So I've got one of these on the way. It'll be here today. Real excited to get this thing up and running and be printing in some NinjaFlex finally and not be pulling my hair out. So yeah, so the FlextDually came available on Monday, and it's $494, or it's about $500, and it's at lulzbot.com, so you can get your order in, or you can head on over to the LULZBOT's source code, which is found under their support, and go under their forum or their download section, and you can find the source files. So if you head under TAZ source here, you can go under their production parts, and you can download all of the parts right here and print them at home yourself.
So what's Doodle Schnoozle? Schnoozle Doodle?
Budish nozzle. Budish nozzle is a really well-known, kind of very consistent, reliable print head. So I have, one of the reasons that I'm moving away, or not retiring, but I'm gonna decommission my row stock for a while until I get it back up and running with I'll probably put a Budish nozzle, is I converted to an all-metal hot end, but it hasn't been that consistent nor reliable. I've been having a lot of jamming issues, so I'm trying to find that sweet spot of being able to print these experimental materials, but also print reliably, so that's kind of where I'm at. So I got one of these TAZ 4s on the way, so it'll add another a little prosumer machine to my mix of things.
Very interesting.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Well, on the subject of, what do you want to call them, extruders, there's another one that just hit Kickstarter, which I'll jump over to now. It's called the X-truder, dual nozzle 3D printer head. And, like you, Chris, we're all interested in doing dual extrusion because, one, I'd like to print something without having to use dikes or snippers to remove the support material. But, a lot of times you can draw something or create something so it doesn't require support, but sometimes you just can't get around it. So
Right.
I'm always envious of your Fortis 250 and its ability to print support material that's dissolvable. So I've been looking to go do extruders either on the Ultimaker 2 or in this case, there's been a couple of other items out there, but this is the extruder dual nozzle 3D print assembly. And what makes it different, and it kind of identifies as we go through here, and if you can hear the garbage trucks in the background, I apologize. One, it appears to have a motion that on the head itself, and then if you can see here, it has the two hot ends and then the extruder is right behind it. And it literally appears to have the extruder plates here, and then there's a center pin, so it looks a little different than others. And then it's built onto a circuit board. So here it shows it, all metal extruder. And then they use a, what do you call it, heat sink fins in order to dissipate the heat, which I guess I have heard is a big concern on dual extruders. And so a lot of times they get around that by separating, or the spacing between the two extruders is lengthier, which can cause some problems because you've got to ensure that that gap needs to be filled, especially if you have these going one on top of the other. So it's a little difficult. So they're actually trying to minimize that by putting them very close together and using copper heat sinks, which seems like a great idea. And then their filament system, instead of using the standard NEMA 17, I think they said what's the next step up there? So they're using I'm sorry, go ahead, Chris.
A NEMA 23?
Yeah, I think so, something like that. So they're really pushing the ability for torque, which is very important with extruders. And I'm assuming that since you have, no, actually it's a NEMA 11. So is that actually 11? And so they mount that on the back of it, and then, like I said, they use a circuit board, and obviously they tout that minimizes problems because you've got a board that you, with those fixed connectors right on that you put your wires into, so more reliable is what they're hoping for.
So
and then
it's funny because it actually looks a lot like the internals of the head that's in my Fortis. If you open up the Fortis, it's the same concept.
Well, it'll be, yeah, okay. We can talk about that in a moment. And then it's got this special magnetic. They don't really make it clear if it's magnetic and the head just pops onto it, or if it's just an alignment tool. Yeah, it says high strength. If it is just, if this is the way they secure it to it, I really hope that's not the case. I would have problems with that, but because then we're looking in the same territory as the MakerBots, and we've all heard about the horror stories of their new extruder and how alignment is a problem. So hopefully it's just for providing an alignment process, and then there's some other secure mechanism. I do not hope that it's just magnetic. So yeah, they show the plate here, and then its whole assembly. So it looks kind of nice, but then they get down into what the possible problems are. But before we continue, I'll play this in the background here. So it's actually running there. But if you notice the type of printer, Chris, that's a MakerGear M2. Oh. Guess what Mr. Balzer has? He has a MakerGear M2. So immediately I thought, wow. And there's actually a couple of other dual extruders for the MakerGear M2, so I'm thinking of getting something soon. And in fact, actually, MakerGear M2, the company is planning, or MakerGear is planning to make their own dual extruder. So it looks interesting, but at the same time, obviously this is a prototype. I hope the finished product looks a little better than that.
Yeah, it looks like a really great find, Mike.
Yeah, it looks real interesting, but then they get down here into the bad. As we're both aware of, PLA has some problems with, and good problems, that allows you to melt it at a lower temperature point, somewhere between 180. If you look at MakerBox PLA, it's actually higher, so that may be a good suggestion. Use the same type of PLA that MakerBot is using, which is a higher melting point. But it says that because PLA has a lower, it has a tendency to jam because it softens way up in the tube. And I guess that could be an issue. And then it talks about the good is that you can get around this by making some G-code additions. But if you're not well versed, how many people are going to be modifying their G-codes? If that is an actual structure error, they probably need to do something to minimize that, because, in my opinion, PLA is what a lot of people use. And I've also heard that what's the solvable or material?
PVA.
EVA also has a lower melting point, doesn't it, or is it a higher melting point? Do you remember?
I think it's a lower melting point typically.
Yeah, so you could have the same issues with that too, and then that would really defeat the purpose of this. But I mean, it is a unique design. But as you said, I don't know what your printer head looks like. So on your Fortis 250, so if that's the case, that this looks extremely similar. Who knows? Stratasys might be knocking on their door, but obviously we'll wait and see on it. But again, it's another company coming up with some unique ideas on Kickstarter, so I may or may not back them. We shall see, but I'll probably keep them in the back of my mind. I still have 23 days to make that decision. So on to you, Chris.
All right, this next one is pretty fun. This was found this via Reddit. And this is Aerial Burton. 3D display projects images into mid-air. It's a YouTube video. And here I will just show you. So if you can see this, he has a laser system that uses some sort of plasma reaction where he can actually focus and fire a laser and basically project into midair. So you can see the.
So is he ionizing the air? Is that what's creating the ability to see the actual pattern?
Do not know. Do not know. He has some sort of plasma reaction. He makes like a butterfly fly around. So this is just out of the box thinking. Incredible. So if you want more information on this, you can head over to DigInfo TV, or is it, yeah, DigInfo TV YouTube channel, and they have a demo of this technology here, showing off how he can project lasers in a way that you can actually like animate things. And I mean, this is just the beginning, we'll see this, like it's saying, when we developed this as a commercial product, as you can see today, we wanted to make it transportable by car. So they're making this. I could see this replacing like fireworks shows. I've gone to some laser light shows that were supposed to replace the fireworks shows, and they kind of were not very good. But this I could see being pretty cool, or even working in conjunction with fireworks.
Yeah, the only laser light show that I ever thought was extremely impressive was the one at Disney World when I went to Epcot Center, and that was, gosh, 20 years ago. So if you've got, I guess, high enough wattage lasers as well as fog or whatever they use in order to make the air opaque, it actually can turn out pretty cool. And they had a lot of cool designs. So. But it appears with this, you don't need to have any opaque material in the sky. It just, as you said, either ionizes or creates a plasma in the.
It's pretty unbelievable to think that you could project a laser like that and be super controlled.
Well, something like that happened in Half-Life, so. You never played Half-Life, Chris?
I did. I played Half-Life 2.
Okay, so the original Half-Life, they were doing an experiment with some type of high-energy beam, and it created a portal, and and that's where all the mess started in the original.
Ah.
So, yep. Okay, well, on to my next item, and Chris, as you're aware of, I try to float with a lot of 3D in medicine. This is another article by Eddie Krasenstein, and he's been kind of doing somewhat of a series on this gentleman. And the guy, let's see, is Paul Heathcote, and hopefully we'll be doing an interview with him. He's done something similar to what I've done, except what he's done is, one, he had an issue in his throat, and he determined through 3D scans and 3D printing that he had actually had a fracture that had gone undetected 20 years ago, and they pretty much told him there was nothing wrong with him. But then if you look further here, he's also done this for his back, and I guess he was assaulted years ago, and maybe this was all part of the same assault. But he has fractures in his back as well, so by using CT scans, he was able to determine this himself, where the displacement and fractures were, and then print it out, and then bring it to some experts who pretty much told him, yeah, I see it, but I don't want to handle it. Which, you know, in my own cases, it's kind of like when I found out that there's a large hole in my wife's head now from her resection that we thought was going to have a 3D, not a 3D mesh, titanium mesh, and it doesn't have one, and never heard a response back from it. It kind of sounds like the same thing, is that, you know, once we have these tools, and as I've said before, Chris, you know, we're opening up Pandora's box here, or maybe we're giving ourselves the ability to look at our own stuff in the way that we view things, and we don't need to be experts on radiologists, because we can look at them as we normally look at things. And I found that looking at things in 3D sometimes detects things that you don't see in just 2D slices. And I know for a fact that all radiologists don't catch everything. So I just think these are another direction that we need to look at more intently, and obviously this guy has been doing so. He's actually going to be filing a lawsuit because of this, but we'll see where that all goes. I guess Eddie's going to be doing another series of articles with him. And like I said, I was hoping to have him on today, but he is traveling. He's from England to his mother, so he couldn't come on. So hopefully we'll do a short interview with him to hear his story for himself. So it's kind of interesting where we're going with this. Obviously he's looking at it, using it for legal evidence, and we'll see how that story plays out. Okay, back to you, Chris.
All right, my next topic is pretty cool, another really cool one. This comes from the European Space Agency, and they announced their basically their theory on how to 3D print a lunar base. So if you want to go out and check out this video on YouTube, you can. Just head over to the European Space Agency's YouTube channel and check this out. It's pretty cool. So basically, their idea is to launch up this rocket that has a payload lander with people, land the thing onto our cool moon, which has been so full and bright in the last couple nights, and with these fall skies that we've been having. And so they're talking about some of the problems: extreme temperatures, solar radiation, meteorites, things like that are a constant threat to having any kind of colony on Mars. There's not really any protection, and getting a lightweight, it costs so much to get anything into space, let alone the moon, per pound. You know, I mean, I think it's $2 million a pound, is what it is, something like that. That's how expensive it is to send a pound of something into space. So when you talk about they're putting an espresso maker on the ISS, it's like, well, how light is that espresso maker? How cheap? How are they spending our tax dollars exactly here? But they're astronauts. I guess they need espresso too. So they're talking about making this this kind of 3D printing robot that can take the regolith from the surface and convert it into a kind of a plaster. And here they can basically inflate a balloon type structure that works as a scaffold on the inside, and then they can use this 3D printed, 3D printable arm and basically build a structure to protect the astronauts from meteorites and the gamma radiation, and so they can have an actual habitable space inside here. So this is their theory on how they could do it. So
do they identify how long it would take?
No, I mean, because I think this is just theoretical. It's not really a practicum. You know, they haven't actually built a machine. You know, they don't know the limitations. I think this is just theoretical, but I could be wrong. They might already have all this stuff worked out. They might already have a working model, for all I know.
Yeah, I saw the movie.
A lot of times, this stuff kind of is happening behind the scenes and kind of you know, from their super secret space development dungeon or whatever. So here, I mean, this is showing how they're kind of expanding the colony. So,
pretty cool.
Yeah, pretty cool. Thinking outside the box. I really like that kind of thinking. So, check it out. YouTube. There's some pretty exciting stuff going on with the European Space Agency right now. That's not the only thing. Next week, we're actually landing a lander on a comet for the first time, and you've probably seen some of these.
Yeah, I've been
the latest pictures from the comet that they're hovering above the comet right now, and the pictures they're sending back are just unbelievable. Seeing there's like dunes and stuff on the comets, just mind-boggling.
Yeah, and actually, I think 3D printed it in order to use it to identify the best spot. So. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Okay, well, on to my next item. It's a little lighter, and it's kind of interesting because I actually went out to it. Make is coming out with their next shootout, so it actually helped me make some decisions on my early printers. They have a good testing team, but what's even more fun is that on Thingiverse, but sadly, if you go out to Thingiverse, which I'll go and do right now, the page comes up 404. So it appears that even though they're talking about it in this article by Bridget Butler, she might have jumped the gun on it because they don't actually have the Shootout 2015 available yet, nor are there models to do the testing available yet on Thingiverse.
I refound there's a link that doesn't work, and then there is a link that does work. I was on it this morning. The Thingiverse files were there, so I found them.
Cool.
So you might have to just. I think that link that is linked to it from the Make magazine.
Well, yeah, agreed. They're probably all dead, but more importantly is that the actual shootout's not available yet either. So, don't know what's going on there, but you did say that you have a link.
Yeah, here it is.
Okay.
I can put it
Why
here.
don't you message it to me, and I'll bring it up.
There we go. Here, I'll
but
put it.
The cool thing is that Make does some really good, thorough testing on a lot of their 3D printers, and they use a lot of these models that you can see here in order to do these tests. And essentially, they have a column, a small box, cones, an arch here to determine how much overhang you can print. So a lot of the things that you deal with in your 3D printing, you can now create these test models to determine how accurate, or more importantly, how to calibrate your 3D printer to get the best out of it. And Chris, did you say you had it up? Okay. So yeah. I'll pop over to Chris here. And so as you can see here, there's multiple models, and you can download them. So pretty cool. And I think it's a good idea to move forward and download things like this in order to calibrate.
Oh, this is a good one, showing how low.
Yeah, that's what I just meant. Your overhang.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
So some pretty cool
Yep, and then the minimum wall length. A lot of these things here are very
How long
important.
your bridge can be. Oh, there you go.
Yep.
See that? That's cool. Awesome.
Yep, so pretty cool. And again, I don't know when the Make Ultimate Guide will be out. In the past, the Ultimate Guide has been, oh, let's see, maybe I think it's like $10 to $15, and you can get it both in a what do you want to call it, a digital version as well as a paper version. And I do believe you could also buy it on Amazon. But yeah, if you're interested in that, it's available. And if you're planning to buy a 3D printer, I think it's a reasonable amount of money to spend in order to get some really good information on 3D printers. So that's it for our news of the day. And so what I'd like to do now, before Garin runs off, because I told him he would be able to come on at 9:45, and it's now 9:55. Garin is from Autodesk, and he's going to talk about, because I'm actually been following it intently because I plan to, I guess, pull the trigger on it. I have been using, because I was a student, the 360 for some time, and I've really enjoyed it. And now they have a new product coming out called Ultimate, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
And so without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Gavin, and hopefully he can tell us a little bit more about what's going on with Fusion 360, and then also tell us about this new edition, and plus your special pricing that I think either today or tomorrow will be the last day. But here you go.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mike. We came out with Fusion 360 about a year ago, first of the year really. It was in beta before that. I still get a lot of questions on, what is Fusion 360? It was really, we about 4 years ago kind of stepped back a little bit and looked at, if we were to build a design tool from the ground up, what are some of the things that we would do? And it was a lot around collaboration, really making it easy to build models, bridging the gap between industrial and mechanical design, and that's a lot of what you see in Fusion 360. If you're doing these crazy swoopy shapes, we acquired a company called T-Splines that's in Fusion 360 as sculpt bodies that you can build really organic shapes very fast, and then we have a full set of mechanical capabilities if you're wanting to build mechanical models with motion and contact and all that kind of stuff. So we've done a lot over the last year, even in how we deploy, get feedback, and introduce new capability in the product. We every 6 to 8 weeks, we add new updates that everybody gets, and we get a lot of feedback and roll that feedback directly into the product. So we don't wait a year to get feedback and get that into the product. So I'd say really kind of a modern architecture, a modern way to develop the software. And as Mike mentioned, we've had our standard version out for a while now, and we've just started talking about an ultimate version. We get some questions on what the difference between the standard and the ultimate will be. I think some of the key things, well, first off, we've had a lot of feedback around people wanting documentation. And that was something that was going to be an ultimate, but we got a lot of feedback from customers, and we've decided to pull that into the standard version. So, you get a pretty rich set of capabilities to build form and function into your model, create 2D drawings, and rendering, all the collaboration, all those kinds of things in standard. Some of the things that we're doing in Ultimate will have exploded views and animations. So with your 3D model, you'll be able to do an explode of it, show how it all comes apart, and then you'll be able to use that to generate drawings. So if you need exploded views, those will be in the Ultimate package. Next year we'll be coming out with things like simulation, probably static, maybe even things like drop testing, things like that. We have 2.5 axis in the standard. We'll add 3 axis, and later we'll look at where we go with that in the Ultimate. Things like team review. So Fusion 360 has a pretty rich collaboration set of capabilities where if I'm working on a design, I can add somebody to the project, and it doesn't cost them anything to come in, review that. They can see it through a Chrome browser. They can interact with it. They can spin it around, look at the renderings. But we also want to add some collaboration where people can see what I'm looking at, and as I'm spinning the model around, they can see, it's spinning around. We can all make comments and have a real collaborative design review session. And some of those things will be found in Ultimate. There's a lot that you can do in collaboration in Standard. Let's see.
Now, if I remember correctly, Gavin, I use it mainly as a solid modeling tool, but it also can take in mesh files. And so can you kind of elaborate? That kind of brings it into the Rhino territory. What sets this apart from, let's say, SolidWorks or even your big brother Inventor?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, we can bring in your mesh data. Depending on, if it's an OBJ, a quad OBJ, you can actually bring it in and convert it directly to T-splines so that you can push, pull, and manipulate it through T-splines. We're working on ways to make that even more useful as time goes on, but you can bring in the mesh data, use it as kind of a reference. You can also create create T-spline faces and snap it to that mesh data. So we have a video out on YouTube where we show bringing in a bone and then basically creating a T-spline cylinder and snapping it down to the bone, thickening it, and being able to use that as like a bracket or something that would adhere perfectly to that bone. So there's quite a bit you can do with the mesh data, whether it's just reference that you're building like a wearable device around. We've had somebody scan their head, their ear, bring that in, and then make a little headset that fit perfectly around that ear. So there are a number of things you can do with it, and we are continuing.
Yeah, actually, I'll give an example right here, Gavin.
Yeah.
This is the occipital structure sensor. They were kind enough to use an STL to provide a model, and then I will bring in my product, 4Eyes lens bracket, that I designed around it. And actually, so it takes a moment to. Oops. No. There we go. I don't think they're on this. I've already messed it up.
Huh.
They may not be in the same scale. Oh, wow. Well, that didn't work. However, I have used it. But what's nice about it, as mentioned, is that this is an STL here. Actually, maybe it's inside of it. No, see, it's not in the same scale. But I could expand the scale. Let's see, the way that I do it is I go to Modify, oops, and then pull that down, and then you have a scale function. I noticed that if you right mouse click on it, you don't have that scale feature in here. And this is kind of the power, and this is kind of puts it in the Inventor SolidWorks, is you have a very powerful right mouse button on this that I really like, that separates it from your, the other camp, the 1, 2, 3D, that a lot of the tools are just click and drag by using your mouse buttons, which I find very powerful. But as mentioned, I wish I had the ability to go scale directly from here, or do I? I guess if I...
One thing I will note that I really like about this whole the Fusion, and I mean what kind of puts it in the same category as the big dog CAD packages, is that you get that feature tree. So if you see a model online that somebody else has built that's maybe not the same model that you have, but they're maybe doing something that you need to do in your modeling, you can go through their model and see how they built it. Which, step by step, that's one of the things that's really nice about the feature tree and things like GrabCAD. Sometimes I'll go on GrabCAD and I'll just look for something that's even similar to what I'm trying to accomplish, so that I can go in the feature tree and see how some, SolidWorks wizard or CAD wizard came up with their design. Because I've been doing this for 3 years. I'm not a wizard. Like there's guys out there, gals out there, that really they've spent a lot of time, they have experience, and they know how to build things better. And so I'm always looking how I can improve my CAD skills, how I can bring my models, make them even simpler, maybe do things better, using revolves or lofts in a different way. So I think the feature tree is a really important part of that.
Yeah, and one thing I'd add to that, so we have the feature tree across the bottom, and then we also capture the versions that you can roll back very nicely. So as I start on a design, it may take, I may be working on it for a week or a month. I can go back through all the saves that I've done in that design and see all of those, and I can even comment out when I save. And I can also roll back to an older version and be able to see that. And we're actually going to take that in a really interesting way in the future as well, where you'll be able to view your branching and see how you rolled back, branched out, and made a new version, rolled back, went forward, made another version. That's not in the software yet, but we really want to make that very easy to be able to do quick iterations, roll back to older versions, branch off, do something else. So, and a lot of this, we leverage the cloud for the files, the file branching. You can go out on a tablet and see all the data out there and make comments. So we're doing a lot with the data, and I'd say kind of a different way than a lot of the design tools out there. And I think for startups, enthusiasts, and smaller companies, they really enjoy that because it allows them a lot of flexibility. So I think that might take us into we talked a little bit about standard and ultimate. There, like I mentioned, there's some things like the exploded view, animations, machining, the design review type of stuff in ultimate. But as far as pricing, for students, Fusion 360 is free, and for startups and enthusiasts, you can get a yearly license for free and then renew each year if you're continuing to be a startup. Really what that means, if you're not making money with the software, then you can re-up for year over year. The terms of service, really, when you start making money with the product, that's when we'd like you to purchase it. But even so, it's not conventional design tool pricing. This is pretty inexpensive. It's $300 a year for the standard, and then it'll be $1,200 a year for ultimate. And one of the things that we're doing, if you get on before, well, we're actually lengthening it out. Today was the deadline. We're going to lengthen that out for another month, but I can get you. I think it's December 13th. I'll have to check. There should be a blog post on it. But if you purchase before then, the standard version, you will automatically be grandfathered into the ultimate version as long as you stay on subscription. So you'll pay $300 a month and get all the ultimate capabilities, which would, if you were to start that up, it would be $1,200 a month. So
a year.
A year, yes. Yeah. So that's pretty awesome.
And to mention, Gavin, I'm glad that you did extend it. I appreciate that. Money was tight this month, so I'm hoping that's the case. But the important thing is, like I said, I came aboard as a student and still using it from that perspective. But I really want to jump aboard, and from what I found out is that you still need to pay the $300 now, even though you have the student version, so that way you can take advantage of the ultimate price. If you don't do that, then when your student expires, then you will not be able to take advantage of it, and then you'll have to jump to the $1,200. And the other thing that I remember is $300 a year infinitesimal, right? So it's ongoing. So if you do join up now, when they say $300, you are able to stay at $300 for the whole
That's right.
the age or the whatever you want to call it, the time of the product is available.
Yeah, that is correct.
Yeah, it's for somebody like me who doesn't have deep pockets. I love SolidWorks. I think it brings a lot to the table, but it is expensive. And then also Inventor is expensive. So this is kind of a segue between the two. One of the questions, Gavin, since I have you here, is this relies a lot on an internet connection. Is that correct? Or if you do have it, do you always have to connect to the internet? I normally have an ongoing internet connection, so I've never put myself in that position. Do you need to get authentication every time that you bring up 360?
Yeah, so there is an offline mode, and maybe just to quickly explain, your data is when you're working on a design, it's cached local, and then when you save, we push that up to the cloud. So all operations, as you're filleting, chamfering, extruding, that's all done on a local compute. Just bandwidth is not such that it would be a great experience to stream that all over online. So a lot of the computation is done local. When you do a file save, it pushes a version out to the cloud. We kick off some translators to make it visible by viewers, updating various things. There is an offline mode, though, so if you're working along and you need to go jump on a plane, you can jump on a plane. Whatever you've been working on lately will be cached local, so you can work on that. You can create new designs. You can do whatever you want to do, and then once you connect, it'll push the latest version up to the cloud and do its regular bit of work. So we do also require you ping back to the mother base every couple weeks. We're pushing out updates and like to keep everybody on the same version. So there are a couple things we do there, but yeah, you can work offline for a period of time and turn it on and off when you want. There's actually a drop down now where you can tell it you want to go offline for a period of time.
Okay, well that's great to know. And like you said, it is a fully embodiment. It is for download. I think it's like 360 megs or something like that. So it's not a small product by any means. So I have noticed that. I'm hoping that you're beefing up the back end of this. I noticed when I first started with Fusion 360, that used to be the lagging issue, is that bringing it up, for some reason the models seem to come in slow. And I don't have a weak connection. I think I have 60 meg download. So I know it wasn't my connection that was the issue. So hopefully that's improved. I have noticed some big improvements. And notice that my models seem to work a little more fluidly, and going in and out from bringing or importing models, and I kind of showed that a little bit. You've got to literally import everything you're working with, and then you'll be able to use it in 360. So there is a little bit of lag before you can jump in and work on something. So if you're wanting to use this as a sketch type tool, I'd probably suggest working with 123. However, when I first started working with it, there's really no way of getting 123 out into something else unless you play some tricks with it. So maybe you can talk with that camp to, if you want to use 123 as a sketching type tool and then bring it in here for refinement, so that it's a little easier, like there's an import directly in the Fusion 360 of their tool set. I think that would be something to look into. Right now I have to go out to the web and I think export it as an SMB or something like that, then import that. And that works, or convert it into a DWG, and that works as well. But there is no direct import. And so I would think that Autodesk, since you have both products, might work to create something that allows that flexibility. And plus it provides an entry. I think 123 is an easier product to work with. They can get their feet wet with that and then move right into 360 and take all their content from 123D directly into Fusion 360. So
that's right.
Hopefully that'll be something in the future, and then that gives a multi-step entry into Fusion 360. Chris, do you have any questions?
No, this looks like a great product. I'm really excited to give it another go and see how you guys improve the software as time kind of goes on in incorporating even more features. And I think it, like I said, I think you are tapping into an enormous market, and you guys are going to find much success with this.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. We've got an update coming out in a couple of days and another one in December that's adding some pretty fun new things. So yeah, keep playing with it, and love to hear your feedback on it.
Yeah, like I said, I'm actually moving forward and actually creating a viable product. It's not really making any money yet, but moving forward with it. So one of the reasons I want to go with the Ultimate as well is that I see a future in designing nothing really sophisticated, which I think it lends itself well for, but it does have the ability to grow into it. Plus, I don't really like Rhino as a product. Sorry, I mean it's very powerful, but it's it's mainly command line in a lot of sense, and it's funny to watch some architects that I've worked with use it. You know, half their hand is typing on a keyboard and the other is with the mouse, and
Yeah.
I don't always think that that's the best way to move forward with things.
Yeah.
So hats off to Autodesk. I think this is a neat product. Your pricing structure, I think, is right on, like free if you don't have any, if you're a student or, like you said, an entrepreneur, and you can renew it every year if you need to. And then if you really want to take the plunge, wow, $300 or $1,200 for the ultimate. But I do insist that people look into upgrading. And Gavin, I hope you can get back with me on the, or I keep calling you Gavin. I apologize.
Okay.
Garin.
No worries.
Garin. Jeez. Garin, you can get back with me on how long you've extended it to, because
Yeah.
one, I want to know personally, and two, I want to make sure it's in our show notes.
Yeah,
So,
I'll verify, but I'm pretty sure it's December 13th. But I'll double check and get with you. One last thing I would note, you know, we're looking for a handful of company or customers that have projects that they want to build that would like a little help and to get going onboarding. So if you're interested, you have a good project you want to work with us on, we have some interesting opportunities to help out and even do some marketing with you to make the product successful. And in return, you know, we're just looking for.
oh, looks like he fell
I
off.
would agree with you on that too.
Yeah, Garin, you kind of fell off for about 10 seconds, if you would mind repeating that again. So you've got a program that Autodesk is willing to work with entrepreneurs. If they contact you, can you make sure that you provide me a link so that I can put that in the show notes? Or if you'd like, I can give them your email address. Would that work as well?
Yeah, you can give them my email address, garin.gardiner at autodesk.com, and you can put it in the show notes. But yeah, if you have an idea that you're trying to bring to market, we're happy to help out with that, and you know, also help market it on the tail end, you know, once you're ready.
Well, great. Again, I appreciate Garin, and you're welcome to stay on, but now we're going to get into our products of the week. Obviously, this is one of them, but I've got a couple of others, and I'll I can't even talk. All right. Chris, go ahead and take over while I get my tongue untied.
All right, we already kind of went into this a little bit, but you know, just want to remind everybody, I've got one of these task force coming today, so that's my project of the week.
Sure, keep rubbing it in.
Yeah, I'm gonna be piecing this puppy together and getting it up and running later this afternoon, and hopefully get some projects. I have some real fun projects I've been working on. For those of you that don't know, I am completely 100% obsessed with riding my motorcycle. I am a KLR 650, a Kawasaki KLR 650 dual sport rider. So
just 100%?
Maybe more. If there is such thing, I'm fully dedicated to to my sport of riding motorcycles. And so recently, last week I rhino lined the plastics. So took off all the plastics on the motorcycle, the skid plate, and had everything not rhino lined, but the local guy here does a similar process where he lines it with like a bed liner, and it covered up all the KLR. So I went in and I can show you here actually. I found a vector of let's see here, if I go, I can show you real quick here. I found a vector version of the Kawasaki logo and made my own Kawasaki plastics to replace my to go over the rhino lined, you know, so that people know what I'm repping, you know, so they know. Let's go here.
So what did you import that in as? You said it's a vector, an SVG?
I found an EPS. Well, I made my own KLR 650 logo, and then but the Kawasaki, I found an EPS version, so I exported it out of Illustrator into a DXF or a DWG, either one,
okay,
and brought that into SolidWorks, and then made these little plastics. And then here I will. I'll go grab out of the printer, fresh out of the printer, one of these plastics. I'll be right back.
So I'm assuming you did a reverse extrusion so that it goes into the plastic.
So it can't.
So we weren't sure if this was going to be done in time, huh?
It just finished. Right in time.
Right on time.
Right on time. Let me just peel away some of this support material so we can see it in all its glory.
Hey, it looks like we've got 2 viewers today. Shout out to you guys. Thanks for supporting us. Cool. So
KLR 650.
it looks blue. So is that what do you have?
No,
support material?
it's the KLR is in a gray.
Okay. Yeah, it has a blue tint, but
And then a white on top. So
okay, cool.
we'll get into that in my print whisperer.
Okay.
Tip.
Okay. So my product is that I've got a client who wanted something printed in a conductive filament. So I did a little research and I came up with this company here, which is Gizmo Dorks, and they have a whole series of filaments of ABS as well as PLA, and the conductive that I was looking at was a, let's see if it says here, yeah, it was a black, and it's the only color that it comes in, and it has about 1200 ohms. So if you're looking to do anything, in this case my client is trying to create a carrier for one of his chips, so he's wanting to put it into a conductive plastic. So if you've got anything that requires anti-static requirements, a cool little plastic. However, there are some caveats behind this. What I found with it is that it's pretty brittle, more brittle than what I found with other ABS plastic, and it did not want to work in my Casso Clear. And I'm assuming it's because of the Bowman extruder. It started working, and then one of the other things that I've noticed, and Chris, I think you've run into this as well, is that if you switch from PLA to ABS without either burning it out or making sure it's completely clean from the PLA, it really creates a mess, and I really have some issues right now with my Casso Clear. However, ironically, when I put the PLA back in, it worked fine. So I went to my MakerGear M2 and I've been printing this out because it has a direct drive, and it seems to be working fine. However, I use a slicer called Simplified 3D, and it's easy to work with, but it doesn't do a really good job, in my opinion, of creating the G-code. And even though this particular item is a rectangle, it seems to create edges, if that makes any sense. So a series of lines like this, it doesn't form the corners around it. So I need to figure out, so I may go to my Cura because I have some settings to work with the Maker M2 and see how that particular G-code works. But yeah, it's kind of odd, and I've had that happen with a couple of other things. Other than that, Simplify 3D is a pretty neat slicer. However, it's not free, and MakerGear M2 kind of supports them in providing it, but you can use Simplify 3D with other things. But I find Cura to be the slicer that I like best. So if you're into something that is Gizmo Dorks, and like I said, they've got a whole series of filaments that comes on a nice plastic carrier. As you can see here, it is hermetically sealed, but it is vacuum sealed and is wrapped in tape. So it looks like a good group, and as you can see here, they have tons of colors, both in ABS and PLA, glow in the dark, wood finish. They've got all. Plus, they've got. Let's see if I can get into. They've got other things besides ABS. Let's see if I can jump to that. Yeah, so they've got a whole ton of things. Polycarbonate. They've got polypropylene. propylene, sorry, and nylon.
$30 blue tape, huh?
I'm sorry. Yeah.
$30 masking tape, huh?
Yeah.
It's a little steep.
Yeah, okay. You can probably find it elsewhere.
Yeah.
But their pricing is fairly competitive, and the most important is that you can buy this on Amazon, so you don't have to go directly through them. Their pricing structure is reasonably priced, and from what I can tell, it seems to be working okay. I might buy one of their PLAs just to see how well it works out with one of the others that I use. But so far, the conductive is printing. Like I said, it seems a little more brittle, and it seems to like direct dry versus the Bowman dry. But again, that could just be my inexperience. So that's it for me for my new product and my project of the week, which is printing in this conductive filament.
Awesome.
So go ahead, Chris.
All right. Well, my tip for the week as the print whisperer is so I want you to take a close look at this puppy. So that's my KLR 650. That's showing right way for you, right?
Yep, it is.
So you'll see behind there, I printed the bottom layers, the bottom 4 layers of this print in a gray, and then the top layers in a white. So then you get this effect that like the gray or the black or whatever the bottom color kind of pierce through, and then you get the effect of of sign, if you will, but it's in 3D. I mean, this white part is raised off. It's cool. I like it. So how I did that, this was in the Insight software that I threw a pause in, but this is possible to do in almost any G-code editor, like in Repetier. So I'm just going to give you a little how-to real quick on how to do this.
Cool.
So if we can not see my Repetier, that didn't work.
I saw it.
You did?
Oh,
here we go. But I wanted you to be able to see the... So here's a file I sliced up in Repetier using Cura Slicer. So this is that file. So the bottom...
So you're using the new Repetier with the Cura print engine, right, or slicing engine?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's so fast. I mean, I'll show you here. If I put my object in here, I hit slice with Cura, boom, it's done. So that's pretty fast. So what I want to do is go into show layer range here, and we're going to keep dragging up until we see where that first layer that we want to. So it looks like layer 5 is really where the KLR. This looks like the top of the. This is like starting, but we'll throw a pause right before layer 5, so that we can change the color of the filament, and then those top layers would be the white. So what you do is you go into your G-code editor here, tab, and if you go down show layer range, we go last layer, hit last layer. It puts that marker at layer 5 here. Hit space, and just put in an @ sign, pause, and boom, it's done. Then when you hit print, start print, at layer 5 it'll pause. Now it might not be a best case scenario because it's going to pause somewhere in the middle of your model. So you need to be either quick about it, or there's some other methods that you might want to do some more investigation on changing the filament on the fly. But this is just a rough and dirty way to do it, and you would change your filament and then press print again or press start print again, and because the pause window would come up in Repetier, and then you could resume your print, and it would pick up with the white filament, and then you would get this effect where you'd have the gray behind, or whatever.
So you're going to try that on your Lulzbot when you get it?
The Lulzbot when I get it. I'm gonna give it a go. We're gonna show it off next week.
Very cool. So what if you don't have Repetier or you're using something else? Do you think you just bring it in?
G-code typically depends on your firmware. What your firmware? I am running a Marlin firmware, but I think pretty much all the common firmware, Sprinter, Marlin, and @ pause is the one you want to use. So you just find the layer in the G-code that you want to switch over prior to that layer, you put an @pause. The printer will pause. You can change your filament and pick up where you left off.
Very, very cool. I'm going to have to try that one day since I don't have dual extruders. So on to my mini 101 on 3D tools, and I kind of brought this up already. We had talked about Fusion 360, and so, well, first of all, the first thing you need to do is sign up. And as he mentioned already, even if you're not a student or entrepreneur, you can sign up for 30 days, but I'm assuming that you'll probably go ahead and go the full year. But you have to sign up, create an account. Once you've done all that, you download Fusion 360. Like I said, it's around, I don't know, 190, 300 megs. Install it, sign in your account, and then you can start uploading. And essentially, they've kind of changed this over the years, but you see this arrow right here. You click on it, and then you find a file. And you can bring in both meshes, as he talked about, and as well as a variety, let's see, of different styles. AutoCAD DWGs, the 360s. I haven't even heard of Acacia V5, DXFs, FBXs, IGES files, OBJ, Parasolids, Rhino files, Pro Engineer, Step file, SolidWorks files. And I've actually brought them in, and it does seem to bring these in fairly well. So you've got a plethora of import functionalities.
CATIA, the one that you were hovering over, CATIA and SolidWorks are both the Dassault systems. So I'm guessing here, and we should have asked Garin, but I'm guessing that the backbone of the of Fusion 360 must be based on the Siemens kernel. Which is what SolidWorks and Solid Edge and CATIA, they all basically run the same Siemens backbone for their 3D modeling CAD packages, and they just write different C functions that tap into the Siemens library. So Siemens, the big company, you know them because they make cell phones, they make
CT scanners.
They make turbines. They make big stuff. They are a huge company, and they do a lot of stuff. But they're the ones that make the underlying software that makes SolidWorks tick. And so a lot of these, when I see a project like Fusion 360 and it's able to open a SolidWorks file amongst these other Parasolid files, what that's a telltale sign is that it's based on the same backbone.
I don't know for sure what it's based on, but we can ask Garin.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing to keep in mind once you bring your file in is setting up your project. Here it identifies Mike's first project as a default, and if you don't change it, everything gets put in Mike's first project, which is what I did initially. But you can change your destination and create different project areas, and this is what I've got here. And then you can bring in and create projects. And it's really easy to do, and it tells you who the owner is. And the thing that, I don't know if he stressed it, is one of the powers of Fusion 360 is its collaboration. Since it uses a cloud-based file store, two people can actually be working on the file at the same time, and then it will show the modifications to the file and who made the modifications. You can set up teams. So these are cool features. I'm a team of one. Actually, Chris and I need to play around with this and try it one day. But again, you can bring in a series of files. And like I said, if you started out in 123D or Tinkercad, there are some tricks to get around the export limitation, but you have to do those on the web. You just go out to the web functionality of 123D, not the 123D program because it no longer works on the web, but your project files, which you can export out as, I think it's EMF. Does that sound right? I can't remember the actual file, but once you do, you can import that in here, and maybe actually if I go back to this, I can figure out what it is. Oh, geez, I don't see it here. Well, just say, or actually you can do DWGs, but you have to have the premium service of 123D to use DWGs, but there is another way. I think it's EMFs that you can import into this, and it works just as well. So if you want to get your solid models in from either of those applications, there are ways around it. But once you're in here, you can export out to STEP, IGES, any other type of format. So you're not locked into the Fusion 360 world like you are with 123D, which I think is a big plus. As you talked about, you can bring in STLs. As I said, I brought one in here, and I was able to use it. I actually created my own templates way before they came out with the STL for the structure sensor. But since then, I've been able to test by literally you can right mouse click on it to bring up the move command and select your item, and then literally just, there we go. You can move it around, and then, or you can use the box over here to put finely controlled movements in and angular movements. So it's really, a fairly robust program, and I'm becoming more and more comfortable with it, and I really like its power, its extrusion ability, its ability to move faces, and that is much better than 123D. Things that I wasn't able to do before, like curved areas, seem to work a lot better in Fusion 360. So good program to look into. And it also can allow you to bring in a lot of sketching functionality as well as import. You can insert SVGs, which we talked about. You'll have to go into Illustrator or something like that to export an SVG. It doesn't have the ability to bring in an EPS, if I remember correctly, but it's easy to convert it to an SVG, which gives you a vector illustration that you can extrude. That's how I created the, and I'll actually use my little 4 eyes symbol here and the 4, and then, like I said, reverse extruded it to create a hole. So there are many things that you can do, a lot of tools, and as both of you alluded to, there's a history, and you can actually play your history down here, so it's kind of cool and shows you that you can go through, and as you can see, I can click on these and it shows me the different things that I've done with the model. So pretty cool program, and then you've got a tree here of different products, and you can turn things off, turn them on. So if you're familiar with solid modeling, you should be right at home with this, especially if you work with 123D or Tinkercad. This is just the next step up. If you're Inventor already, a lot of similarities in the tool sets. So that's kind of my mini 101, and we're close to finishing. So I will talk about our upcoming events and then say goodbye. A couple of things. I'll talk about the 3D Marketing Conference that's in Netherlands right now. And let's see if I have that up. Here we go. Bring it over. There's a 3D Marketing Conference in the Netherlands. It's an international, I guess, to talk about marketing 3D and 3D scanning. One of the things I want to mention is hopefully next week we're going to do an interview with Daub, who's created this extremely high-resolution 1/100th scanner system that they're going to be taking worldwide. It's kind of like a kiosk system. So that'll be kind of cool. But if you're into marketing and in Europe, head over to this. This starts on the 13th, if I remember correctly. So we've got that. Locally, I'm going to be part of a panel at the Madonna Inn for Softex. So I don't know if you got anything better to do. It's a dinner thing, so the tickets are like $35. I had given a talk at the Tech Brew, which is their weekly, actually I'm sorry, monthly kind of informal thing that I did on 3D printing and medicine. So they've asked me to be on their panel. One of the things I'm offering them is that what I've been working on this week, Chris, in order to promote or support more of the things that we're working on, is actually what I call a live cast box, which essentially has a computer, wireless setup into a 6U box. You're probably familiar with that in your radio or your broadcast, your audio days. Chris, do you remember? Yeah. So I'm thinking of, not thinking, I'm moving forward with creating something like that. So I'll have a very portable. If you remember when I set up for our 3D in medicine, we had wires everywhere. So I said, never again. So literally it's going to be one box, one power cord, and keyboard, mouse, and monitor. And that'll be the full setup, and then you just run HDMI cables to your cameras, and you're set up. So what took us an hour should be down into 20 minutes when I get done with this. So that's my objective, and I get to test it out at this thing. So if you've got nothing better to do, or if you want to head out to YouTube, this panel presentation will be available live cast. Just go out to Google Plus or page, and then you can click on it to be part of it. I think it starts at 5:15, but the actual event doesn't start to 6:20. And I'm pretty sure it'll only run to 8 o'clock. And then, like I said, this will be available on YouTube as well. So please, if you got nothing better to do, not only will you be able to hear me, but you'll talk to a GI doctor who is using the camera pill. Have you heard of that, Chris?
Yeah, pretty.
So you swallow it, and it literally takes pictures on the way down, and obviously you've got to take it and, well, we won't go there, but you have to retrieve the camera and give it to him, and then what he does is he takes, actually, I take that back. The type of camera that he works with, it uses wireless to bring send the images to a, what would you call it, like a fanny pack system. So it's like the recorder you wear around your stomach while this thing is going through, and then the images go into this fanny pack system, and then they don't really care what you do with the camera afterwards. But because I'm such a geek, when I get to do it, I'm probably going to figure a way to yeah, fish it out and use it again. No. But that's kind of cool, so if you want to know more about that, hopefully we'll get a couple of other people in there on the panel, but right now it'll just be him and I, and if you're tired of 3D, then obviously you can skip this one, but the camera thing is pretty cool. All right, well, I'm blabbing, and I'm going to stop blabbing, and I'm going to hand it back over to Chris so he can tell our audience goodbye.
All right, everybody. Really appreciate you joining us for our show today. I appreciate Autodesk sending us Garin our way, and really neat stuff we talked about, and hope you learned as much as I did, and we'll see you next week.